Just a week after Twitter blew up with hashtag ban the ADL and Elon threatened a lawsuit of defamation against the Anti-Defamation League, has now announced that they are launching a watchdog organization for anti-Semitism in Hollywood productions. And you said that you think this is going to lead to a lot of censorship of creativity. Would you be talking more about like Bradley Cooper type of situations?
I think that what's going to end up happening
prosthetic noses are going to be banned in Hollywood from now on.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a perfect example of something that would end up on this list, meaning the movie would never get made.
No goblins from Harry Potter are allowed to show up on screen again.
Yeah, and it's called it's called the Media and Entertainment Institute. It's a riveting name.
They also partnering with Common Sense Media. Yeah. I don't know. All of these watchdogs are the same. Like, I don't know how they stay in business. They exist to like propagate themselves, like create reasons for themselves to exist. And they always say the extremists are emboldened right now. Like, when have they not been emboldened? Never. In your opinion? Like, I'm very confused by the rhetoric. They said it's not uncommon to see Jews in movies and television, but it's most common to see Jews boxed into stereotypes and tropes that create a narrow and often negative impression of the Jewish people. That's what Jonathan Greenblatt said in a statement about this.
When they say
like,
it's on
when
the rise.
though? Like, name examples though.
Yeah.
Like, I actually want to know. I would be curious.
And
do they think that Jojo Rabbit was anti-Semitic?
Probably not. That one's probably fine. They say it's on the rise, but they never actually give like statistics or dates or anything like that. It's just an amorphous term that's used to just generally say like, this is our reason for existing right now.
Ironically, they also said the entertainment industry was once a safe harbor for Jews. That is no longer true. There's been an alarming rise in anti-Semitism within our professional ranks, industry organizations, and in our art forms. Yeah. There's never been a more pressing need for ADL's Media and Entertainment Institute to step into this void and engage directly with industry leaders on these issues. I stand ready to support them in any way I can. It's just word salad. It's bureaucratic word salad that doesn't mean anything.
It's just more rules and regulations, which you should not have on art, period.
Yes, exactly. Will they consider the context of all the things that they're judging, right? So like if somebody says something anti-Semitic, does it matter if it's a bad guy that says it? I was watching, I've been rewatching Dexter, and there's this scene towards the end of season 1 when Jeffrey Pearson's character comes in. He's the police captain, or he's the police captain. He goes in to fire Velez's character, and he calls her a very bad racial slur. Does it matter that the guy's clearly supposed to be a dick that nobody like? He's not a protagonist.
The context and interpretation doesn't matter to them.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, what it's going to do? It will end up hindering the work of the people creating things. Because now, when you're writing this scene and this guy's like, "Oh, this would be great if I really want to drive home the point that this guy's a scumbag, I can throw this insult in here." But now that writer is going to have to think, well, if I do this, we're going to get a bunch of articles written about us by activist journalists, and then the losers from the ADL are going to latch on, and they're going to make a big stink about it, and we're going to get all the wrong kind of publicity. So people will end up self-censoring. They won't even need, like if they do it for long enough, they don't even need to do their job because all of the fun has been wiped out of entertainment. Well, no more fun characters.
It's sort of like the GLAAD report cards that they do, grading the Hollywood studios on how well they do,
or the USC
LGBT representation,
inclusion initiative.
But like every time that they do another one of those report cards, the results seemingly get worse.
There's more work to be done.
There's never enough representation.
We need more regulations.
There's always more work to be done because nobody whose entire job it is to be that work is going to say, we've solved the problem. Now we don't need to exist anymore. We can just move on. We'll disband.
Can we talk about the way that men and white men in particular are vilified in Hollywood productions?
Yeah, that won't matter.
Just casually mocked and belittled and degraded.
What about that show Handmaid's Tale? Do they ever specifically say like what religion that's supposed to be?
I never watched it. I don't know.
From my interpretation, it was supposed to be like Christian extremists. I might be wrong, but it's.
I mean, that's
from
the
what
implication.
I could tell, that's
at the end of the day, that doesn't matter because there's still plenty of blatant.
There's plenty of anti-Christian, anti-white, anti-male rhetoric, and jokes that are in Hollywood productions now that everyone turns a blind eye to, or at least when we cover that kind of stuff and we complain about it, we're not looking to reprimand them or ban them from making the type of content they want to make.
Right. Because it changes, like, having to change one word in a show changes everything because art is so nuanced. So it's like you were saying about that scene, if he just called him a jerk, like, it wouldn't be as evil as it is to actually say whatever he said in that scene, right? It doesn't represent the character.
Yeah. It's where the whole trope of like bad guy turns out to be a rapist came from, where it's like, well, we really don't like this guy, so now how do we drive home that you're really, 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 how do we prove that this guy is unbelievably irredeemable if he just out of nowhere decides to portray a trait that we never saw before, which is like, you know, he's got the woman captive and he's like, now he's gonna R-word her. And you're like, well, where did that come from? Because they need to drive home the point that the guy's a bad guy.
We've got one from Jon Stewart that says, my tithe for Brett's Bobert date fund. Thank you for your generous donation.
I wonder how much those tickets cost. I'm gonna have to figure out how much those tickets cost.
You're gonna have to get a box too.
So she can vape and sing and
but it's like, you know, when they portray those characters in the movies, right? Like a big reason they do that with a lot of bad guys is it helps to excuse the good guy doing something horrible to them. Meaning that like the good guy can get away with doing that because this guy has proven himself to be. And oddly enough, Hollywood, just like the real world, does tend to fall in this category. Like you can redeem a murderer. You can't redeem an R-wordist. So if you want to make them absolutely unfixable.
It's kind of like the villain of The Last of Us season 1.
Or what?
He was about to assault Ellie.
Yes.
And then... Well, they rewrote that scene anyway so that Joel couldn't save her, but that's like when you knew he was irredeemable.
What was the
not him being a cannibal? That.
Yeah. What was the Stephen Lang movie where he's blind? Chat, do you guys know? And he takes the woman hostage and he tries to like impregnate her with a turkey baster.
What the fuck?
And then like in the sequel, he's like an anti-hero and everyone's like, what the fuck? Like,
all right.
Or think of I always point this example out when they were making Peacemaker. Peacemaker's dad, who is a virulent racist, he's an extremely evil person who's also happened to raise his son to be a homicidal maniac. In the movie, they never talk about they're never mad at the dad for raising his son to be an abhorrent murderer. They're mad at him because he raised his son to be a racist. Like that's the abhorrent one. That's Hollywood has their priorities.
It's like Kick-Ass.
It's called Don't Breathe. That's what it was. Okay. Yeah.
I've heard of that movie.
Yeah.
But it's like the movie Kick-Ass where this girl is like a 13-year-old assassin, but everyone was all upset because she swore too much.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, I need to watch Kick-Ass again this weekend.
So good.
It's so good. It's so much better than The Peripheral. Yeah. But
I feel like this theme is coming up a lot in today's show. Like with the last segment, Danny Masterson, you know, now is universally hated by his Hollywood peers because he was convicted of R-word, but they were complicit in it beforehand, like before he got caught.
Right.
Yeah.
That goes for a lot of people in Hollywood. And then like with the VMAs, people talking about Chris Brown, like it's selective enforcement based on who you like. But like what can realistically be done about the bigotry against white people and against men in Hollywood productions? Like are based people gonna have to start watchdog organizations? Like
it won't work. They have no power there. The ADL has societal power,
and that's what they were. That's why Ban the ADL was trending, because they were threatening to boycott advertisers who were on X because of the rampant anti-Semitism that they perceived to be on the platform. And then Elon was like, oh, how about I just kick you off altogether and you don't have to worry about this anymore. Then I'll sue you for defamation against my platform.
The other part that this adds to it is the idea here that by the end of this, that there's no such thing as a Jewish villain. Is that what's going to happen? That any Jewish villain will be seen as a trope or a stereotype. Therefore, he's
the movie She Said is actually anti-Semitic because Harvey Weinstein is the villain in it.
Yeah. So they that's where they want to go. And at the end of the day, when you start adding these, it's one thing to, I think you mentioned this earlier, it's one thing for Joe Schmo 32 Electric Boogaloo to critique art. It's another thing for an organization with structural power within the industry to use that power to then try to prevent people from making their art.
Specifically, we are Joe Schmo Electric Boogaloo 32.
We are. That is us.
But
we are they.
Yeah, like all we have the power to do is vocalize our opinions.
Yeah.
We don't have the power, like this Watchdog organization, to actually like pressure Hollywood studios to censor their work.
Yeah. There's a $20 one there from Bang Bang Lulu.
I guess I won't read it. They're asking me not to read it.
There you go. There you go.
There you go. You got what you wanted.
Like, because the ADL, which I think anybody who has half a brain would say that they have a left, at the very least, a left-leaning bias, if not a far left bias. Like, how in a supposedly liberal society do we adopt the idea of watchdogging art and then pretend like we still hold liberal values? Like, Mary has her critiques of a lot of these industries. You have strong critiques of sex scenes in movies. You have strong critiques of nudity.
And when we win, they will be banned.
But the point is you wouldn't consider yourself a liberal. You'd consider yourself a conservative, which
right. At least I'm not a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah. Whereas, like, it would be like, I guess, me being like, so I'm going to go in here like, and any wrong portrayals of Polish Croatian people, I will use all of my systemic power.
Actually, you would be using your systemic power to stop Barbie from misrepresenting rollerblading.
Yes. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Yeah. How dare the aggressive skate people be the bad guys? That was the real, not to mention, they made them corporate, which is not the truth. Like, it was wrong. It was abhorrent. The movie should be pulled and rewritten. I don't care how much it costs you. That's a risk I'm willing to take.
You've been working so hard to, smash those stereotypes and tropes against rollerbladers.
So hard.
And
Barbie.
No, the funny thing is,
here comes Barbie to ruin all of the work you've done.
I made that literal joke. I said, like, 25 years of the sport being underground on its own, doing like badass stuff, and then here comes Barbie, pink and neon, and it's just like 25 years of work just poof, gone.
Yeah.
It no longer exists. And let's face it, at the end of the day, this type of stuff coming from the people that supposedly champion art, it's annoying. It's annoying that you're going to go out here, and especially if it's like for one, like, would it be better if it was like for multiple causes? Like, we're here to call out any wrongdoing in movies. So any xenophobia, any homophobia, any anti-Semitism, any of these things. But it seems
they have to replace all insults that are in movies or television shows with poopy head, stupid face, butt face, things like that.
Yeah. I watch so many like old shows, and you see how much less of a problem we as a society had with dealing with somebody taking a dig at us, right? I was watching, I haven't mentioned House in about a week, but he has one where Foreman's brother gets out of jail, and he says, like, Foreman says something about our dad. He goes, same dad. Nice. Like, you couldn't make that joke today. Like, he would be, but
I don't really get the joke, but
because the character's black. So
thank you.
That's what I'm saying. You wouldn't be able to make that joke today.
The way that sentence was punctuated with the crisis party, it worked. It was perfect.
Thank you for explaining.
He also
our culture just used to be so much more like, I don't know, tough.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's argued whether or not that's a good thing, but like, people, like, humor was just like offend as many people as possible. Like, I was watching Jersey Shore, as I mentioned, and they had a confessional booth tape where I think Sammy Sweetheart said, if a girl's a slut, she should be abused. And it was just like out there. Like, it was just candid. She wasn't joking. Goodness. Like, she was being serious.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine?
Yeah.
What would happen
today?
Oh my
gosh. They'd be like, your words are violence. You're
And that
inciting violence
wasn't-
against women.
In the grand scheme of things, that wasn't that long ago, and it's just crazy how fast things have
That's the thing.
changed.
When you
It's
draw
the
so much
internet.
attention to it, it
It's-
can't go away either.
Society's not any different. It's the fact that everyone has a phone in their pocket now. Now there's just more people with a voice to complain. The same people would have been upset before. I don't believe that anything's any different. I think that now, first of all, your show is all like if you make that type of comment, all of who you are, all of what your show is, are consolidated down to 3 or 4 social media profiles, where then everybody you've offended descends
Flocks
upon
there
you
and, yeah.
to yell at you, right? Like
and
back
then the
in the day.
producers panic, and they would kick her off the show.
Negative YouTube says, I'm always surprised how pretty everyone was in older shows. Did you guys see that Apple commercial today with just the boardroom of the ugliest people you've ever seen in your entire...
No.
Not even ugliest. They're just the most like not hot people. They're not...
Nondescript, not hot,
They're kinda
average
frumpy,
size,
frumpy.
Frumpy.
ethnically ambiguous.
Yeah,
usually.
and it's just it's such a virtue signal, and it was for like a climate change thing too. So it's like
Stop mining for cobalt, then we'll talk.
There was a Babylon Bee thing. It said like people cheer for Apple releasing or with the first carbon neutral Uyghur concentration camp. but it really is true. Like in old movies and television, it was true meritocracy where all the women were hot and all the men were, if they weren't hot, they were funny and they were a draw, or the character made sense. There is an argument to be made that there was a time where there was more like frumpy men as secondary comic relief than frumpy women as secondary comic relief. The women were still hot all around.
Lena Dunham changed that.
Yeah, she did. So you see all that stuff in the old days, and you know, it's a bummer. We had it perfectly figured out. You go look at the 80s, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, not exactly
Whoever
beacons
plays
or
George Costanza.
yeah, like not
People are
Alexander.
constantly posting pictures of George Costanza being like, this is what comically fat was in the 90s.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah.
And it's like you look at all of them and you're like, well, wow, that's what passed for like like Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray. That was a movie star. You know, when you looked at, it's not like Stallone and Arnie weren't there, but they were known for being, they were like, their good looks were part of the package, right? You had plenty of actors that were good looking, but you could be a good looking actor or you could be like an average looking actor and still be a movie star now. And then in the early 2000s, you know, like everyone was good looking.
You could be mildly funny and not good looking at all, and
we had
still get casted.
And then you have like Paul Blart Mall Cop with Kevin James with his impossibly hot wife Leia Remini in the show, right?
Wait, that was
from the show.
Queens.
No, I'm saying like him
okay.
he exists in that. I think of Kevin James as just a thing across all things. As far as I'm concerned, Kevin James is the same in all things.
Do you think it's important for late night hosts to be attractive?
That's an interesting are any of them?
Not really.
It's like, obviously looks don't really matter at the end of the day, but obviously you prefer better looking people.
Yep. And it was
there are a lot of girls that
the
simp
board.
for like young Jimmy Fallon pictures. They like
he used to be cute. I'll give him that.
Leno was never exactly like
yeah, okay. I don't understand him. He's not funny. He's
look,
not
I'm not saying I'm
good-looking,
a
was
prize.
never
I'm just saying,
good-looking.
like, you know, my chin wasn't visible from space.
Yeah.
it's better that than no chin.
Yes. But yeah, in a lot of yeah, but Bruce Campbell is all chin too, and people love him for it. That's what people love about Bruce Campbell, is he's all chin. They've been said, many directors have said he takes the greatest headshot in all of Hollywood. So
Bruce Campbell, I'm looking at
Bruce Campbell.
right
He's
now.
from The Evil Dead.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's just Hollywood.
Solid jawline.
We lived through a golden era back then of stuff. And I also point out, like, my favorite is when they deform somebody. Like a hot guy gets deformed in a movie, and it's the most attractive deformity you've ever seen in your entire life. Did you ever see the really shitty Beauty and the Beast cop procedural that they made on the CW with Christine Cruick? It's so bad, it's awesome. But the point is, the Beast in it has like he's got like a facial scar. It misses like all the important parts. It's like a scar up here away from his chiseled jawline and perfectly like ruler measured stubble that they have. It's like, oh my God, he's so deformed, and it's just like a small scar across the top of his.
It's like
top
Phantom
of
of the Opera.
Yeah.
That mask actually just makes him more attractive.
Yeah.
It's like mysterious, and he still has a great jawline and a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
And a cape.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.